and saddle up. It took years to pass, but now the government wants to unpick it. The debate over banning hunting is back. Now, forget about George Osborne's new settlement, because one of the longest-running modern political battles is back. The Conservative majority government wants to relax, if not quite remove, the ban on hunting that preoccupied Westminster for years under New Labour. One mercy, you might think. This time, the vote will take place within a week. Here's Allegra.
The unspeakable in pursuit of the uneatable. So said Oscar Wilde of Foxhunting, but for many who love it, its banning in 2004 was not undurable.
We are here dealing with...
Sitting suspended.
People rioted, but they dearly hoped that if there was to be a Tory majority, a Tory PM would repeal the Act. Now there is that majority, and perhaps that moment to overturn the ban. On Wednesday, the government's tabled a free vote. David Cameron has made no secret of the fact he'd dearly love to bring back fox hunting. For a certain type of Tory, it's central to their sort of bucolic vision of the English countryside. David Cameron always thought his problem was the Liberal Democrats, but now he has a majority. He is realising he has just as much of a problem with his own Tory backbenchers. Many of them think it's a deep distraction, and they also think it hardly speaks to the new Tory message of one nation conservatism.
David Amos, Member of Parliament for Southend West.
In 2004, this man was in a pretty exclusive group, a Tory that voted for the hunting ban. He's now pretty annoyed.
Well, I've been certainly taken by surprise by this. I thought the matter would be left alone. We just fought a general election campaign where it wasn't an issue on the doorstep that people were saying they wanted to bring fox hunting back. It was quite clear that there wasn't a majority for it. And now to suddenly spring on us this technique through a statutory instrument is quite extraordinary.
And so the government has had to be very careful in what it's proposing. At the moment, 2 dogs are allowed to flush out a fox to be shot as long as it's for pest control purposes. In Scotland, more dogs are allowed to flush out the fox. The government says it's therefore simply relaxing the rules in England and Wales to be in line with the rules in Scotland. This, it says, addresses the upset of hill farmers plagued by foxes. But there is unhappiness about how the government is doing this. It's using a statutory instrument. This allows legislation to be changed without the scrutiny of a proper bill. This isn't some dreamlike fairy tale prospect. It really might happen. Conservative whips have told me that if the SNP stay away, they're confident they can persuade enough of their number to back the measure, that when they see the detail, it won't be quite as bad as they fear. The unknowable is how many new intake Tory MPs will come on side. Right now, their mailbags are filling up with constituents writing to them, deeply worried that fox hunting's coming back.
Now, it may be that the changes that are being asked for aren't actually going to fundamentally change the Hunting Act, but this has been done very, very quickly, not enough explanation, and I think the signal that it gives to the general public is that it will be a repeal of the Hunting Act.
This is a pretty canny move from the Prime Minister. If he wins, he's able to placate much of his large rural vote, telling them he'd like to do more. This is all he could do with such a small parliamentary majority. If he loses the vote on Wednesday, well, no one can say he didn't try.
Well, with us to discuss this is the Queen guitarist and animal welfare campaigner, Dr. Brian May, and Jim Barrington, a former executive director of the League Against Cruel Sports, but now a welfare consultant to the Countryside Alliance. Thank you both for coming in. Brian May, first of all, what do you make of what the government is trying to do here? Because they're not trying to get rid of the ban.
I think it's a very underhanded act, I'm afraid, because Cameron for years has promised a free vote. It's like it's a fair fight, you know, a free vote on the repeal of the Hunting Act. He's now really realised that this probably wouldn't result in what he wants. So very quickly, as you've seen there, this thing has been put together as a way of circumventing the normal democratic process. So you introduce a little modification to an act, but this modification actually disables the whole Hunting Act. And effectively, this is repeal under another name. And I think that's a very Machiavellian and rather inexcusable way of behaving.
Jim Barrington.
No, this isn't repeal at all. Repeal is still on the table, and the Prime Minister said that just a few days ago. This is about addressing exemptions in the Act, which were agreed by both sides when the Act was going through, for pest control reasons, for catching a diseased animal or something like that, a wounded animal, and they don't work. So this is a very quick, sharp measure to allow those things to work. The totally artificial number of dogs, 2 dogs, just doesn't work in large areas of forestry. Also, we have the situation in Scotland where any number of dogs can be used to flush out, and it brings that into line. So when people claim that the Scottish law is good, you can't say that it's bad when the same thing is going to happen down here.
Yeah, well, I would disagree with you, because there have been cases in Scotland recently where there's been people out there with no sign of a gun, you know, openly flouting the Act because they're allowed to use a full pack of dogs. I mean, this is going right back to before the 2004 Act, really. And in my opinion, there is no excuse for fox hunting. The idea that you say, you know, it's about pest control, I reject utterly. There is no reason.
I don't say it's about pest
excuse me,
control.
you've had your say. There is no reason, there is no justification for fox hunting on the grounds of control of foxes. They breed them to hunt. So it's all about people out there trying to catch foxes for fun. They like causing pain. And this is what Cameron is actually, I'm afraid, endorsing in bringing back this.
This is the way it's always portrayed. A bunch of sadists going out killing just for fun.
I see it as sadism.
You do?
Go to any meet and you will see a whole range of people, mothers, children out there. They're not all sadists. This is about part of wildlife.
They like the hunt.
Brian,
they like the ride, right?
Hang on. This is a part of wildlife management. This is not about.
This is not wildlife management.
This is
I'm
wildlife.
Sorry, bollocks.
This is wildlife management. This is more about
this is
keeping.
A pretense
Brian,
to enable
Brian, will you
people
please let me finish? This is about the health and limitation of those left alive rather than those killed. That's what wildlife management is about. But what we never hear, we always hear what people dislike. We never hear the methods that they advocate. How do you feel about controlling wild animals? Is there any method that you would actually support?
You know what? This is fox hunting, right? This is what people realise is fox hunting. It's all around us here. You know, it looks kind of... They dress up nice. It looks kind of civilised. This is also fox hunting. This is what happens with terrier men. This is what flushing out a fox looks like. Have a look at this. This is what people do who like to cause pain, and you are licensing these people in allowing them to flush out foxes in the first place to this kind of horrible, crude...
But your Precious Hunting Act allows that in any case. It
Yes,
allows it. You designed it. It's your product.
No, I didn't design it.
Well,
It
the
wasn't
anti-hunting
me, no.
groups do.
Yes, but basically they did the best they could, and what's happened is...
That's nonsense. They had a majority in the House of Commons at the time.
May I finish now?
They could do what they like.
Brian, what do you say to that point? Because actually, under the existing law, this does happen anyway. There has to be. Do you accept at all there has to be a form of control of foxes in the countryside?
No, I don't.
Not at all?
No, because foxes are not really causing any damage. In fact, most of the farmers that I know are more concerned about the damage that's caused by hunts during trespass. They get their pets killed, they get their children terrorised. The hunts are a horrible, nasty vestige of the last century, which should be gone and should never be brought back, in my opinion.
There is not one countryside organisation that would agree with you about that. The RSPB control foxes, although they don't shout about it. Are they wrong too?
Do they breed them to hunt as well?
I don't...
Do you know,
you're not talking about breeding, you're talking about preserving them.
Preserving them so you can torture them?
There is a difference.
It's a disgrace, I'm sorry. Do you know that there were no foxes...
Everybody who's involved in hunting is a torturer. I mean, there are.
The central guides. No, there's lots of people who go out there for
the day out.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, if you go drag hunting, then you go out and you get a nice ride, you can chase something, but there is no fox scent, so the hounds can't, you know, follow a fox accidentally. There is no cruelty, and a lot of people enjoy it. That's what countryside pleasures should be about. There doesn't have to be the killing. There doesn't have to be the enjoyment of the kill. Aren't you ashamed that you go out there to enjoy the death of an animal?
I don't do it, Brian. No, I'm not ashamed because I do not see people doing it in the way that you describe. You're hyping this up so that the public see this as a sort of kill or no kill situation, and it's not. If people understood wildlife management, as we have to with a whole range of animals, for disease control, for protecting vulnerable species, for biodiversity...
I believe it's a pretence. I think you're a bunch of lying bastards.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you.
Sorry.
Well, I'm afraid that we are out of time, and of course with apologies for anybody watching who might have been slightly offended by that language, but thank you both very much indeed for coming in. It's certainly a very passionate debate on both sides that will be settled in the House of Commons on Wednesday.